بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إخواني الحضور المهندسين ومهندسات، يشرفنا اليوم نلتقي معكم مرة أخرى باسمي وباسم إخواني في مجلس الإدارة في جمعية المهندسين دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، وهذه من ضمن الويبنارات التي تنظمها الجمعية للتعامل مع التحديات القادمة في قطاع الهندسة، وخاصة وإحنا مقبلين على خطة الخمسينية. وبالأمس كنا نتحدث في محاور مختلفة ومنها الطاقة المتجددة والاستدامة البيئية وغيرها. فجمعية المهندسين طبعا تحاول أن تكون لها دور في هذه الخطط والفعاليات، عل وعسى أن نجمع ما بين المؤسسات الحكومية والجامعات، ونجمع نخبة من الإخوان الدكاترة والمسؤولين في هذا المجال، بحيث نتبادل معهم أطراف الحديث في هذه المواضيع الخاصة بالهندسة، وحتى يستفيد منها حضورنا الكرام من المهندسين والمهندسات من مختلف الشرائح. طبعا ما عنده فكرة عن الجمعية، جمعية أسست في 1979 باجتهادات من مؤسسين كانوا مهندسين خريجين في ذاك الوقت، واستطاعوا والحمد لله يعني بجهود المهندسين الآخرين أن نصل إلى أعضاء يتقارب عددها إلى 60,000 من مهندسين ومهندسات مختلف الجنسيات، مواطنين وغير. واستطعنا أن نؤسس يعني جمعية على 4 أقسام: قسم الدورات والفعاليات، قسم العضويات لتسجيل وتصديق الشهادات، وقسم التحكيم، وقسم اللي هي التدريب. طبعا من ضمن خطة الجمعية أن عمل الشراكات مع كثير من الجامعات والمؤسسات والشركات، وكذلك مع الجهات الحكومية، عل وعسى أن نبني جسر التفاعل بينهم، ويكون لنا دور معهم ومعنا اخواننا الآخرين في المؤسسات الحكومية، نضع برامج تدريب وتأهيل لكوادرنا الوطنية من المهندسين، خاصة أن يعني إحنا نملك نخبة كبيرة من الأساتذة والدكاترة والمهندسين والمسؤولين اللي خاضوا في هذا يعني المهنة سنوات طويلة، فإمكانهم يعني يشاركوا مع الإخوان من الشباب الصاعدين، خاصة أن التخصصات الهندسة تغيرت، تخصصات الهندسة أخذت الآن اتجاهات مختلفة، ما كان حلما في أيامنا أصبح حقيقة الآن، فلا بد أن التكاتف تكون أكثر والتعاون يكون أكثر. أنا لا أطيل عليكم لأن اليوم موضوعنا شيق، موضوع خاص بالسستينابيلتي ورينيوبل إنرجي، وضيفتنا الدكتورة نوال الحوسني غنى عن التعريف، لها حضور قوي في هذا الجانب. أنا أترك المنصة لأخوي وزميلي الدكتور غانم كشواني ليعرف لنا الدكتورة نوال الحوسني، وأيضا يتكلم قليل عن موضوع الحوار والويبينار اليوم، ونترك مجال للنقاش بعد انتهاء الدكتورة من محاضرتها في هذا الموضوع. تفضل دكتور غانم، المنصة لك، نبدأ الحوار. جزاكم الله خير، وإن شاء الله نلتقي بعد انتهاء من المحاضرة. تفضل.
شكرا أبو أحمد، سعادتك. طبعا اليوم فرصة سعيدة. And today, since I believe that our event, it is not only a local event, it is an international event, and so today we'll run it by through the English language. And today we have a very special guest, and as an individual, I consider myself as quote unquote a fan in her work that both in academic and industrial way. And so today we host Her Excellency Dr. Engineer Nawal Al-Hosany, and this is a small brief about her achievement. So Dr. Nawal Al-Hosany, she's the permanent representative of UAE to International Renewable Energy Agency, ARENA, since April 2018. And she was also the Executive Director of Sustainability at Masdar. And then after that, she also was the Director of Zayed Future Energy Prize. And she, from 2017 and 18, she was the Deputy Director General of Emirates Diplomatic Academy. Dr. Nawal, a part of this, he was involved in many advisory board and also community board membership. For example, she was in the advisory board of the National Geography magazine, and also she was the and the advisory board of the International Convention on the Climate Change that run by the UNESCO. Also, she's have the from 2017 to 2020 a membership of the board of trustees in the Khalifa University, KU. Dr. Hosany, she was also awarded in 2018 by Doctor of Letters from Wales, from UK, from Kelly University. Also, she has been awarded the Arab Woman Award and the Emirates Businesswoman Award. Her academic background, she got her bachelor in engineering, architectural engineering in 1992, and her PhD from Newcastle University in UK in 2012. And the following fact, it is one of my wishes in my bucket list. She was one of the first 2 Emirati women to climb the mountain of Kilimanjaro. I salute you for that. I mean, it is in my list. Hopefully one day I will do it. And with all this rich CV, today I was telling Her Excellency that today I was receiving calls abroad from UK and US, I mean, international boards. We mentioned like American Society of Civil Engineer, Energy Institute, ICE. They call me, Ghanem, give me more detail about the event. So it is such an honor again, Your Excellency. And as His Excellency, Engineer Mohammed Al-Mashroom, today with the new phase of Society of Engineer, with all the professional bodies that we have, the professional engineering, the digital engineering, the Emirati abroad, the 100% Emirati chapter, all these chapters, we believe that we need a great example that we can see. And the floor is yours, Your Excellency. And as we said, we today have a very vital topic. It is the energy sector.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghanem, and I would like to thank the Society of Engineers for inviting me. It's such an honor to be on this platform, and I would like to also thank everybody who took time to join us today and to be part of this session. And I hope it will add some information and it will contribute to your knowledge about the renewable energy scene here in the UAE, what we are doing, and why it's important for us, and a bit about the UAE energy strategy. And then, as I mentioned to Dr. Ghanem before we go live, my presentation is going to be brief, very fast, because I would like to leave a bit more time for questions and answers. So if I may, I'm going to share my screen. I would like to share a presentation, and we'll go through the presentations. Please, if you have any questions, you can, I think, post them as we speak, but also maybe we can do live Q&A. I'm not sure about the format, but I'm happy for both ways.
Yeah, please go ahead, Your Excellency, with your presentation.
Okay. Okay. So my slides today, I'm going to be speaking about, I'm going to divide my presentation through 3 main parts. First, I will speak a little bit about IRENA, about the mission. Then I'm going to speak about the UAE energy strategy, what we are doing now, and what the different parts of our energy sector and the energy scene of the UAE. And finally, I'm going to present some of our renewable energy projects and the technologies that the UAE has been pushing and advancing and trying to accelerate here in the UAE and globally. So the first part for those of you who don't know, IRENA is the International Renewable Energy Agency. The UAE has won the bid, which was a global bid, to host the IRENA headquarters here in the UAE. It was the first, it is still the first international organization to be based in the region. And it was a great competition between several countries to win this headquarters. The importance of hosting IRENA here is basically a reflection of a global acknowledgement of the UAE's role when it comes to renewable energy and sustainability. Because for an oil-based economy and an OPEC country to campaign globally to host the first international agency that is focused on renewables, that is a very ambitious goal. And for us to win this is a global recognition of the leading role of the UAE in that field. As I mentioned, 2009, we won the bid. The IRENA HQ now is in Masdar City in Abu Dhabi, and the UAE was one of the first members to have a permanent representative confirmed for the international organization. I serve as the third PR. Before me, we had the first PR, the first permanent representative was Dr. Thani Zayudi, who I'm sure you know now, he is the Minister of International Trade. Before that, he was the Minister of Climate Change and Environment. And you know, it is an advancement for this sector to be accelerating the advancement of renewables, again, not only for the UAE, but globally. And you will see later in the presentation the efforts that we've done in that sector. The mission started by being under the umbrella of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but now it falls under the portfolio of the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, and we represent the UAE's interest in promoting collaboration among the different member states to advance renewables and sustainability efforts. What we do is we always try to leverage the IRENA presence here in the UAE. So we create and facilitate links between, and when I say we, I mean the UAE mission to IRENA. We facilitate links between the different government entities and regulatory stakeholders and help them benefit from having IRENA here with the knowledge that IRENA has and the know-how, and also ensure that our position as a country is being protected, our interest is being represented in the different platforms of IRENA, either in the council meetings or in the assembly meetings, and our voice is heard when it comes to decisions that or different strategies that IRENA is proposing. We also lead outreach campaigns and forums to raise awareness about what IRENA is doing, but also raise awareness about what the UAE is doing as a climate responsible and commitment to international community in the field of climate change. The UAE, as you know, holds the sixth biggest oil reserve globally. But that for us hasn't been enough. So we were leading, or we are a leader in the oil sector. So, but the UAE decided that they want to be a leader in the energy sector, not only in the oil sector. And that's why, although we have been, and we are still a very active member of OPEC, and we are proud of the wealth that we have from the oil sector, we are working very diligently on diversifying our energy segment, because it's going to lead to the diversifying of our economy and the diversification of our wealth into more of a knowledge-based economies. So we always work to advance our strategy and meet that ambitious. But also, as I'm sure most of you know, we have an increasing demand of energy, and we would like also to ensure that we have enough sources to address our own energy security demand, and to address this global or this growth in our population and the expanding industry capacity that the UAE is have. So there are very important reasons for the UAE to seek the diversification of its energy sources from only the oil-based economy, introducing renewables, introducing other clean sources such as nuclear. That is part of it is our global commitment to climate change. Part of it is our ambitious to continue the leadership in the energy sector. Part of it is addressing our own energy security by diversifying our energy mix and meeting our increasing energy demand. So that's why we have been pushing in a very, very strategic, very systematic, pragmatic way into diversifying and transitioning into an energy mix that has other alternative sources such as nuclear and renewable energy. But why renewables? And when did it start and why it started? So, renewables were, as I mentioned, it's one of the fastest growing energy sectors globally. And the UAE want to maintain that leadership in the energy sector. And hence we needed to be part of that. So in 2006 was one of the first initiatives that was launched, which was Masdar in Abu Dhabi. And the aim of Masdar was to support Abu Dhabi in its effort to diversify its economy and lead into an energy-based economy. And that was a very important segment in our story. So when Masdar was launched, it was not only a company, it was more of a vision of how you create a new industry, you create a new sector in a country that has been, and is depending at that point on one source of energy. And this is why when it was launched, Masdar, it addressed the full value chain of this new industry, which is a new sector, through academia, through the introduction of Masdar Institute of Science and Technology, even industries. At the beginning, we had manufacturing facilities, and addressing, trying to accelerate renewable energy through the larger projects through our clean energy team. But ending with a very important part of the equation, which is demand side management, and addressing this through the Masdar City, where you create this ecosystem for that to happen. And this is where today we have IRENA headquartered in Masdar City, and I'm very happy to say that actually IRENA, in very short time, in 10 years, has reached almost global membership by having more than 160 members and many others in accession. You know those numbers more than I do. We have an increasing energy production, but we also have an increasing of electricity consumption here in UAE that is linked with an increase of our CO2 emissions. And this is why transitioning into renewables was important for the UAE to address as I mentioned, the increase in our demand, but also the increase in our emissions. So in 2017, we launched, or the UAE launched, our energy strategy for 2050, which is 50 by 50. So 50% of our generation will be from clean sources. 44% of that will be from renewables. And that is, and there will be a lot of focus, because it's very important that we not only increase our supply, but also reduce our demands, and improving energy efficiency is critical to the equation. And that's why you will see in the energy strategy, it's looking at supply and energy generation, but also focusing on energy efficiency and looking at how we reduce our emissions. And again, we don't do that without thinking of the economical impact of that. We look into this, that's going to provide us with around 700 billion dirham savings when this is being implemented through those strategies. So, for the UAE, sustainability and the equation of sustainability has been always built on 3 pillars: economy, society, and the environment. So we need to ensure that everything is being balanced, and all decisions that's being made are taking the 3 elements into consideration, which we call the triple bottom line. In 2015, Dubai Clean Energy Strategy was launched by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE. And under the strategy, 75% of the energy requirements would be produced by clean energy sources. 7% in 2020, which already was exceeded this year by 2%, and 25% in 2030. And everybody was talking about bad news in 2020 and challenges that facing specifically the sector of renewable energy and sustainability by changing, with the economical challenges and the changing priorities. The UAE was very proud to always announce good news when it comes to that. So Dubai exceeded its target by 2%. Abu Dhabi has successfully launched one of the biggest bids in 2020, which we are going to mention in a bit. One of the important projects that also was launched as part of the Dubai strategy is the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, which is going to be the largest single site generator of solar energy in the world, which can produce 5 gigawatt by 2030, which is going to have an investment of around 50 billion dirhams by 2030. In 2014, also, Dubai launched the Shams Dubai initiative, which is making different buildings energy generator by having the solar roof on ground mounted and on residential, commercial, and industry. And again, this initiative has recognized more than 125 megawatt of installed PV. And again, this is something extremely impressive for a country that really does not need to do that. Abu Dhabi, speaking about different Emirates, I'm mentioning just examples here, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but all the other Emirates have their own initiatives when it comes to sustainability and green energy. But I'm just mentioning those two cities just for an example of how the UAE is approaching its 50 by 2050 strategy. So in 2019, Abu Dhabi Department of Energy unveiled a strategy that is targeted by 2030, which is mainly focusing on demand side management by 22% reduction in energy consumption and also 32% reduction in water consumptions. And one of the tools that the UAE has done to promote the use of renewables here in the UAE is using net metering, auction system, and tendering, which the UAE basically has through our tenders has achieved world record numbers of low cost, specifically in solar, in the projects that was done either by D1 Dubai or by the Adwiya here in Abu Dhabi. So you could see how those policy tools has helped us basically increase our capacity or installed capacity of renewables on profit, because we managed through a very innovative approach to reduce the cost to record numbers globally. So I get so excited and happy when I speak about those projects because they are just very pioneering. The UAE renewable energy projects are never business as usual. Everything we do with passion, we do with love, we do with care, and that's why all our projects come across extremely innovative and different and unique in their scale, but also in the technology that are being used. You will notice in our projects, most of our projects are solar, and that's clearly for climatic conditions. Our main source is solar. We did test wind, but it has very unfavorable conditions, and that's why you will find that most of our projects, and I can show you a comparison between, for example, the UAE and the UK, and you can see the difference. We also piloting with hydro. There is the Hatta Dam projects, which aims to have a capacity of 250 megawatt using hydro for storage, which is now under development, and it's very innovative because it's combined with a touristic project, so everything has always multi-use. We are looking into different projects such as waste to energy and biofuels, generating generated from cooking oil, and we have projects in Sharjah. We have other projects in other Emirates to waste to energy. And we were looking into geothermal, but again, the existing technology, we actually piloted one in 2009 and between 8 and 9 in Masdar City. But at that time, the technology was not, the return on investment wasn't so high. So, but it's not dismissed. We still have small pilot projects around the UAE when it comes to geothermal. But the main source of what we are using of renewables is solar energy. And this is just an example that shows you wind comparison between us and the UK. And we chose the UK because we as the UAE invest in a lot of wind farms in the UK. The largest, when it was installed, wind farm was done with Masdar, London Array. We also have a very innovative projects, which is high wind, and we have a floating wind farm. So we've using this partnership we have with the UK helped us accelerate their targets of achieving their renewable targets through a joint partnership with the government there. So you see the difference between, clearly the red is where you have more wind, while the UAE, as you see, it's very, very limited. That's the other way around, and I'm sure most of you, at one point when we used to travel, when we used to go to the UK, or most of you, a lot of you who study in the UK know that the sun, having the sun in the UK is a cause of celebration. So whenever it gets sunny, everybody goes in the streets, and you see the difference between the solar intensity in the UAE and the UK, and this is why it's a wise decision for us to follow such technology. We started very early. The first solar farm we had is in Masdar City, the 10 megawatt solar PV plant in Masdar City. When it was inaugurated, it was the largest in the Middle East, actually the first in the Middle East to that scale. Then in 2013, Shams 1 was integrated. And if I may, it's something maybe not relevant to renewables, but it's relevant to the leadership of the UAE. If you remember, at that, when it was unveiled, the Shams 1, which is the 10 megawatt CSP plant, and at that time it was the largest, again, operational CSP plant in the world when it was inaugurated. It was inaugurated by Allah Yahfadh Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, the UAE president, and it was inaugurated in the presence. Just before inaugurating the plant, at the site of the plant, the new cabinet was sworn in. So we had at that time a new cabinet is taking the oath to serve the country. And it was, was a very young cabinet, a very futuristic approach to even selecting the members of the cabinet and the portfolio that was announced, being unveiled or announced at the site of a very futuristic project, which is Shams. Very strong message to the world that we take, our leadership is united in when it comes to the advancement of renewables, because it's part of the future. So that was a very strong message and something that gave us a great pride in what the UAE is doing. And the Mohammed bin Rashid Solar Park inaugurated, and you can see it progressing from until now. I think we are in phase 5 at this point. 2008 was phase 3. 2019 we launched Noor, which is 1177 megawatt PV in Abu Dhabi. Dubai Shams initiative, which is the solar rooftop PV plant, and phase 3 and 4 in Mohammed bin Rashid is being in solar park is integrated, is actually finished. And as you can see from those pictures. The this is and I'm speaking about Masdar here, and those are some of the projects, but you could see some of those projects that Masdar has done and some of the projects that are being done by Masdar in other cities in the UAE. And we are very proud of Masdar because of it's a national company that has done that has a great role not only in project development but also in policy shaping and in advocating renewables and sustainability around the world. So you could see a lot of initiatives that has been done by Masdar had an impact on developing national targets in other countries. And I'm going to go through those examples in a bit. This is just pictures of some of our projects that I mentioned. And there's so, there is so much beauty. Again, one of an important point when the UAE launched Masdar initiative, the original idea was that we are going to have all the renewable energy demand or needs that's going to be built on site. But then you could see what scale is needed for it. So that's why instead of trying to condense everything in a small plot in the city of Abu Dhabi, we have started to develop projects, as you can see, on a larger scale in the Western region. So this one is located in Swayhan, which was inaugurated it commenced in 2017, and it was started commercial operation in 2019. Another thing which is very unique also to the UAE is that we incorporated renewables in our humanitarian work and in our international aid. So you will see that we started, and I'm sure most of you know that the UAE is one of the largest aid contributors to the world. So we started to do that through infrastructure projects and providing this infrastructure project through renewable and clean energy. And by this, we are addressing not only the demands of those countries, but also our global commitment, because we're part of an initiative which was Sustainable Energy for All, to provide clean energy access to all. And also contribute to the global needs of energy and global demand for energy. And that was part of what we do, part of the targets. The UAE helped a lot of countries to fulfill their targets when it comes to renewable energy and energy demand. So we had, for example, those three main channels, which is the UAE Pacific Partnership Facility for of an amount of $50 million, which has been fully deployed. The ADFD IRENA Projects Facility for IRENA member state, which is $350 million, and it was divided into 7 cycles, and the 7th cycle has just concluded in 2020. The UAE Caribbean Renewable Energy Fund, which is again $50 million, and now is being deployed. So it tells you that those projects with climate financing enable those countries to generate clean energy and create job opportunities. And as Dr. Raisa mentioned, green jobs and green technology and having opportunities is one of the most important elements of this new industry, or the renewable energy industry, because you are creating a new job and opportunities for people. This is basically a map that shows where are our footprint when it comes to the UAE's projects, renewable energy projects around the world. And I say this as an interesting fact, that the UAE is the only OPEC country that doesn't only export oil to the world, but we also export renewable energy projects and knowledge and know-how to the world. And this map shows our footprint globally. And this is just details of what type of projects we've done in those islands around the world. So, in conclusion of my presentation, we can see that renewable energy over the last decade, since we started, has matured because of, and again, you know, we need to be proud because we need to take credit of the work that we've done. One of the reasons that it matured and reached the level it is because of the effort the UAE has done to accelerate the adaptation of renewable energy here in the UAE and globally. And we've seen the maps and we've seen the numbers. We have seen it deployed. We deployed it globally in large scale utility projects, but also in small scale residential applications and mini grids. It is now a very mature industry. It's cost effective. It's competitive with traditional power in the electricity sector, and it is it's actually the most realistic way to cut energy-related emissions in the time frame that we require to mitigate the impact of climate change. It's definitely, renewable energy has the highest potential to enable global energy access, clean energy access. And we have shown commitment, we have shown leadership, and we increased the renewable energy share globally by our projects here in the UAE, by our investments globally, and by humanitarian work that we have done internationally, but also of the different platforms that we created and we established to create a strong global advocacy for renewable energy. Having IRENA here in the UAE is one example. Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week is another example. Having the Green Economic Awards is another example. So there are so many platforms that the UAE has hosted, the UAE has pushed, that helped advance the sector globally. So with that, I would end my very quick presentation, because if I'm going to take my time, I think we're going to stay here for a week or so just to speak about what we did. But I'm cautious of your time, and I am cautious that for this session to be more informative, it should be engaging, and we should I should address the questions that you guys have. So thank you so much, Dr. Ghanem.
Thanks a lot, Your Excellency. I mean, I'm very thrilled by the information. And let me emphasize on this, that here in UAE, we do believe that in sustainability and renewable energy as a value. It is not a KPI, it is not business oriented. And this is what I like, what we do, even of our humanitarian project, we do it with energy aspect. And this is just to reinforce the idea that we believe that as a value that it's embedded in our culture. So this is very important to tell that for all the audience around the world. And as you know, that with this pandemic, we have technical and we have procedure challenge that we are having, and I have a lot of questions by the audience. But here in QA, it is my pleasure to introduce study Dr. Isa Al-Pastaki, President of University of Dubai. And I remember Dr. Isa in our last session, and we will have the discussion about the 50 years discussion engineering horizon here in UAE. The last thing he told me, Ghanem, I was saying, Dr. Isa, it is different than being good and looking good. He said, Ghanem, we can be both. So when it comes for the energy sector, and you will know with Her Excellency Dr. Nawal, what's your insight about this topic today?
First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Ghanem. Thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Nawal. I really appreciated what you said. It's a very informative session. If you think it's short, but you gave us a lot of information. The numbers are very important for us to look at. I completely agree with Dr. Nawal, what she said regarding UAE, even though it's an oil-producing country and a large oil-producing country, it still has a lot of endeavors and plans for the renewable energy. I'll give you a very simple example, which is, we talk about green economy. And I think when you put economy to green, that means the renewable energy should be economically feasible. And we have a very good example that has proven what I'm saying. University of Dubai, we have actually installed 15,000 square meters of solar power, solar cells. And plus we have the parking. So it generates 1.7 megawatt hour. Plus the parking is nearly 2 megawatt hour for University of Dubai. So we depend on the solar power 100%. And we are, of course, the University of Dubai is the campus is green campus and smart campus. We have gold LEED certificate for the university whole, and in maintenance and operation, we have platinum LEED certificate. But that's not it. We are now the only university in the world is net zero energy campus. That means we are not emitting any carbon dioxide to the air. Net zero, what I mean is we are producing more than we require, but sometimes we produce less. So we have an agreement with DEWA that we feed to DEWA at the time of access, and once we need it, we get it back. Summer and winter also has a difference. So the totally we speak, when for the whole year, it's completely net zero. So you're not emitting any carbon dioxide to the air. The carbon footprint is zero. Not only that, we spent 5.4 million dirhams for this project, and we are paying DEWA 1.2 million dirhams per year. In 5 years, we recover completely. So after 5 years, we'll have net zero energy campus plus no cost related to the project. So it's also economically feasible. So I always try to encourage the organizations and universities to go for solar energy because it will become economically feasible. That was my input, Dr. Nawal.
That's fantastic, and to have a return of investment in 5 years, this is phenomenal, because this should be a default, and it's not something you even think about it. So that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing.
So Dr. Nawal, as you can see for your presentation, you said that now it is so obvious that the main challenge that all the sectors that are facing is this pandemic. So what do you think the pros and cons for the energy sector in this pandemic? There is any advantage or disadvantage? I know many of the people, they have this Q&A that how the energy sector can flourish or survive with the pandemic, because as big company that they said, why should I invest in the energy sector? For them, it is a privilege, and why the bother?
I think what we've seen is that, well, first, we need to acknowledge that what we are going through now is an extremely dramatic circumstances. A lot of people have lost their lives. A lot of people have lost their jobs, and we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the economic consequences of this pandemic. So, we need to acknowledge that to begin with. However, we here at the UAE and many countries with wise leadership understand that we need to look at the long term. So this is the time where we need to focus on what is it that we are going to need in the next few years. So investing in clean infrastructure, investing in things, as Dr. Isa mentioned, that will bring it return on investment in a very short time, not even in a long term, is important for everybody. Once we go back to reality, we need, a lot of people are talking about, we need to build back. We are saying we need to build better. So people need to, and a lot of organizations are very responsible because they understand that building better is the only option we have, because we have a pandemic that showed us how vulnerable we are, and how some of the choices that we made were in a way had an impact on our environment. We were kept in the houses for a couple of months, few months, and then earth breathed. We saw nature flourishing. We saw some of the animals were almost distinct, now populating again. So we've seen how the environment very quickly, get back into recovered in a very quick pace. People. I was on a webinar yesterday with a team from India, and they're telling me how they never seen New Delhi with a clearer skies before. So some of our decisions that we were taking had an impact on our environment and the way we live, and affected the quality of our life, but also affected the quality of our businesses. Because an air quality that is poor is not going to only affect the environment, it affects your health, it affects your productivity, it affects your attractivity as a country, for investors, for businesses to come, for talent to attract. So everything is connected. So the health of your environment, the health of your environment, and the health of your economy is very much connected with each other, with the health of your society. So that three pillars cannot be looked at in silo. You cannot look at your economy without looking at the well-being of your society. You cannot look at the well-being of your society without ensuring that your environment has well-being. And your decision related to your energy mix and your energy industry or your energy infrastructure is definitely linked to that equation.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Nawal. Your Excellency, today, even in your presentation, you mentioned about the clean tech. And as you know that approximately, like from civil engineering perspective, that 80% of our electricity go to the heating and cooling, the building and transportation, and it is a huge number. So today, like I received many questions, even now, that especially from the Gen Z, they want to open the startup. They said, please ask Her Excellency Dr. Nawal, do you advise to open our startup in the clean tech, and what the opportunity? I mean, yes, there is some technology as not mature, as you mentioned about the geothermal. I mean, the ROI is not, I mean, it's not profitable in this moment. And so do you think that the startup and the SMEs are ready, especially in this stage, to go and take the leap of faith to start their startup in clean tech? What the challenge and what they can do to reinforce the startup in the clean tech?
I think it's very important for our engineers to focus their effort. If they are into technology and innovation on clean tech, because it's very important. Why? Because it's the future. There are so many advances that we need in technology. You mentioned one on geothermal as a technology, but also energy storage is something that is very important, and we are looking into solution for that. If you fix energy storage, you will fix a lot of global challenges when it comes to advancing renewables. The efficiency of the solar needs to improve. The efficiency of wind needs to improve. There is so many innovations. So I would suggest, if you have the passion as an engineer, if you are passionate about what you're doing, if you have the technical and the know-how, this is where you need to specialize. This is where you need to get into. But again, clean technology can be anything, can be technology related to the renewables as an industry, but also it can be in the supply chain, in the material itself. So the engineering of material is very important. We need to look into how we can advance the materials that is being used, either for solar technologies, but also for wind, for other technologies. Hydrogen is big now. And there are billions of dollars is being invested in hydrogen globally. Sustainable transport, it is a sector that is very, very important. Demand side management, our buildings, I'm sure you have between your members now and some of our attendees in architects, how do you design your building in a way that is an environmentally an energy conscious building? Your building would become an active measure in your equation when it comes to reducing demand of the building. So everybody, we all have something to say, even to do when it comes to improving the supply chain and being part of the of the sustainability field or sector. Even if you don't want to get into the technology part, you know, there are policies, which is very important. What type of policies do we need? How we advanced our, you know, our adaptation of certain technologies. So I think there is something for anybody, and that has passion for this field, and it you know, and I think we really need to get out of our traditional boundaries when it comes to those companies, and tap into this sector. And there's so much financing for such projects. You know, there is finance everywhere, either in the government or even in the private sector. A lot of companies are being bought by big companies, small companies, to help in that sector. So I would definitely encourage anybody that is, you know, has the technical background and the know-how to look into what are the needs of the market now, and try to get into this, you know, this field.
Thanks, Your Excellency. I mean, I really like the mention when you mentioned about the building. I think one of our audience, Professor Abbas from Sharjah University, is working on that, and also about the construction. If I remember, me and His Excellency Dr. Saeed Al-Dhahri, we talk with you about having alternative material and cement that it is eco-friendly, and I remember that you published an article in the National about the importance of involving the private sector. If we want to make it right, we need to involve in the private. It is the PPP, private-public partnership. So I think it is, for me, it is a very important point, and the World Economic Forum have been emphasizing in that to have the clean tech flourish. So I think if you can talk about the involvement of the private sector, especially in the clean tech.
I think we've reached now to a global consensus on the importance of the partnership between different sectors. So as a government, you cannot work in silo without the engagement of the civil society and the private sector. And another important part, which is the engagement of the society itself. Just to give you an example, when we started Masdar in 2006, 2008, when we did the groundbreaking of Masdar City, people loved the idea. You know, everybody was so excited about the idea, but nobody really wanted to move it to Masdar City. So when you ask people, they were like, you know, it's a great thing, we're going to go and visit it. It's like, you know, it's like a park. But it wasn't and something that was appealing and attractive for people to be part of it. And we did a survey, and we noticed that there is a direct link between the people's environmental and sustainability awareness and the acceptability of Masdar. So at that point for Masdar, it became a business need to educate people on sustainability and renewable energy. It became something very important. And from that, your partners are, you know, your government, your private sector, but also your people. They are an important part of that sector. And when I say your people, every segment of your people, your as Dr. Raisa mentioned, the youth are important. Engaging the different segments of society, engagement of women is important, and I'm very happy to see that among your attendees, a lot of women. So that makes me very, very happy. Why the private sector is very important? Because they are the one who are going to go and advance the technologies. The private sector is the one who are going to, you know, once you have the right policies in place, they are the one who are going to, and there is a good business environment, they're the one who are going to go and invest and put their money on those projects. So it's very important to understand what are the limitations that is stopping the private sector from running with you as a government if you want to run, and address those challenges. And it's very important because the private sector will be able to mobilize funds. The private sector is going to be able to mobilize technology. The private sector is going to be able to be on the ground and make things happen. And the private sector also is going to be the one who is incubating and paying and funding, as Dr. Raisa I'm sure knows, for your research. So instead of waiting for the government to do that, the private sector, once they understand what is they will create the market dynamics that will create the jobs and create the opportunity and advance this technology. And this was that has been the theory behind when we built Master City. Is we wanted to attract what we call anchor tenants like Siemens and GE, because they are the one who will create this environment that will incentivize the students at Master Institute to make research and create research projects that those companies will fund and help stimulate, and that's very important. I think Dr. Ghanem, you are in mute. I can't hear you.
I can't hear you, Doctor.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Your Excellency. So I want to emphasize about the financial system and sustainability, because during my readings, I found that one of the main challenge toward the renewable energy sustainability to find a new financing system. And I believe in UAE you mentioned that, for example, I was reading that now we have something called the green bonds, that for different private sector and stakeholders, if they are willing to put and developers any project construction or operation, and they have the sustainability element, they are eligible for the green bonds. And maybe Dr. Isa, you can put your insight about this private sector and partnership and how you see it can help and boost, as Her Excellency he mentioned.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghanem. First of all, if you maybe I need to talk about World Green Economic Organization. It was founded in 2016. The headquarters in Dubai. They have seven platforms in that organization. One of them is academy and youth platform, but one of them is also the private platform. Plus you have states, you have cities. So because private sector is very important sector that deals directly with investments. If the green economy is not feasible, then we will not have private sector members or platform. What the private sector is doing is partnering with the public sector and trying to see economic feasibility on whatever products they actually produce and manufacture. So an example, you can design a chip that can be green, and also it can also be effective in terms of return of investment. So the private sector cannot enter if there is no return of investment out of it. And I told you, University of Dubai has proven that it can be economically feasible if you just the capital cost, the initial cost is expensive, not that expensive, but in the long run, it will prevail and economically it will be positive. So I think partnership with public or PPP, which is public and private partnership, is important because the government is there to do regulations, to have the initiatives to enhance the green economy, and then the private sector comes in to contribute. And also, in the same sense, the private sector doesn't come just for social responsibilities, CSR. They're coming also to make sense out of these kind of projects. If it wasn't economically feasible, the private sector will never come in. And now we have in that platform, private sector is working hard. Even one of the companies, they're working with University of Dubai to check how and to audit our project. And so from there, they will use some kind of software packages that will help to manage this thing, plus go elsewhere, other universities. So PPP is very important in green economy. But one thing we have to know, that green economy doesn't mean renewable energy. It means clean energy. Clean energy, what does it mean? It means renewable energy plus the fossil fuel energy that will be harvested. So what it's called energy harvesting. As long as you harvest the energy produced and emitted as carbon dioxide, you can actually bring it back and capture it and harvest it for other things. As an example, movement could turn into energy. If a car is moving, a movement can turn into energy. Electromagnetic waves could turn into energy. Heat could turn into energy. So whatever we are dissipating, we need to bring it back to create energy. So it's clean energy is very important, not just renewable energy. I don't know if I responded to the question or not.
Thank you, Dr. Isa. And we have a question from our neighbor, Professor Dr. Isa Qambar from Bahrain. And his question to Your Excellency, Dr. Al-Hosany, and you know, his question that he's asking. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your presentation. An article, the vision of the UAE, that by the end of the year 2020, 7% of the capacity it will be renewable energy. Did UAE reach that number? Thanks, Professor Dr. Isa Qambar.
Thank you, Dr. Isa. The 7% was actually a Dubai target for the Emirate of Dubai, and it was not only achieved, it was actually exceeded by 2%. So Dubai now is at 9% renewable energy capacity.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
And by the way, all the numbers that was produced by Dubai government, it actually exceeded. As I'm trying to just add more, that everything was exceeded more than the target.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. By the way, Dr. Isa Qambar is a very good friend of mine. He is a professor in University of Bahrain. He's also in Society of Engineers. I wanted him in actually with us to discuss this, but I think he couldn't come in.
And we have also another question from Dr. Carol from University of Wollongong in Dubai. And he said, since fossil fuel can be reformed to release the hydrogen formed through hydrocarbon molecules, it is used in fuel cells. Few companies like Honda, Hyundai, General Motors are using this technology. How do you see the future of this technology as fuel cell?
I think there is great potential. We were just talking about this just before we started the live session. Hydrogen is definitely going to be part and a great and a major part of the renewable energy scene as we move forward. There is huge investments being put in it. Actually, in January, the coming January at Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, there will be the meeting of the International Hydrogen Association here in Abu Dhabi, as part of the efforts to see what's happening in that industry, where is the research is going. As I mentioned, billions of dollars is being put by countries, not only by the private sector. So there is a great drive, and we believe there is definitely an opportunities for that sector in fuel cells, as you mentioned, but in every sector. So we are looking at it with great interest. IRENA has focused. There's a theme of IRENA's work, or a segment of IRENA's work that focused on hydrogen. And countries like Japan, Germany, Norway, etc. The UAE definitely are investing into the research and development, but also looking into application of hydrogen. So as they say, wait for the space. There is so much to be unveiled. I believe in January there was many projects will be announced here at the UAE level, but globally also we are seeing a lot of advancement.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and I'm aware of the time, but finally, what your insight about the research should be developed in this area? As an academic, I'm very interesting. You mentioned about the building behavior. You mentioned about the smart material. We talk about the hydrogen fuel and hydrogen economy. I mean, to support the blue and green infrastructure, the economic. Any advice? I mean, I have to quote Dr. Waddah Ghanem. He said that a true academic cannot be a true academic unless he's industrial academic. So any advice for the academic sector about the energy sector, where and how they should focus their research area?
Oh God, that's a question. I think
I'm sorry, Your Excellency.
There are so many needs, and I think localized research is very important, because what works in one country doesn't necessarily work in another country. I think this is one of the very important things that we've seen when we started importing some technologies. You know, their performance in the UAE is very different because we have very unique climatic conditions. You know, technologies that is dust resistance, for example, when it comes to solar, because we have a lot of dust here in the UAE, as you know. Water research into water and desalination technology is very, very important. You know, most of our water is desalinated, and it is one of the main
water scarcity
is water, because our water is energy, you know, and it's very high intensity. Most of our groundwater now is hypersaline. Our Gulf is becoming very very saline as well. So the salinity, you know, how we even can use the salt, for example. You know, there's so much to be done in every sector, either in engineering, in sociology, and economy. Every academic, they want to look into something related to the green economy, or a green industry, or a green revolution, or a sustainable living. Let's put it this way. I think that's the, you know, have an umbrella of sustainability around it. Then there is a need. Human behavior, buildings behavior, equipment behavior. You know, there is so much opportunities. I believe the only, you know, for what we need is somebody who is passionate about this sector, that will look into it and find some local circumstances. But I believe Dr. Aisa would be better equipped than me in addressing this question, because that's what they do.
Thanks, Your Excellency. I mean, again, I want to thank you for your effort, for your great presentation, and personally, it's such an honor to be with you in this session. And I totally believe you add, as Dr. Isa, he said, there is a lot of information and eye-opening points you put it, and we really appreciate your effort. It's, I mean, and I totally believe that you are an inspiration for many young engineers. And as Dr. Isa said, he's very proud of you, and we all of us are proud of you. So any final word or thought from Dr. Isa and His Excellency Engineer Mohammed Al-Mashroom?
Well, let him finish it. Mashroom will be the last one. I think it's better. First of all, I'm really proud of you, and I've seen her in the University of UAE. She was also always hardworking and very ambitious. From that day, I realized that she has a bright future. You have to be sincere, you have to be dedicated, you have to be truthful, and all these, and work for it. And all these traits, nice traits, she has them. And I'm really proud of my student, who has become now a very successful lady and a successful engineer also. So my best wishes to you, and thank you. And I really thank you also for me being with you today. Regarding the research, you wanted me to talk about it. I think you said enough, and it was completely said well. And I don't need to add anything to it. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Isa. It has been an honor to be your student, and I still look up to you as a mentor. And I was so, as I always tell people, I was so privileged to be, you know, you've taken me under your wing when I was at the university, and I would, you know, I'm so proud that, you know, to be part of your team then, and I look forward to always seeing you and hearing from you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. أبو أحمد سعادتك تفضل. أبو أحمد يمكن تحط ميوت ما نسمعك.
مو ميوت بس في شيء في ميكروفون معنا.
اوكي الحين؟
Yes.
تفضل أبو أحمد.
أشكرك دكتورة. Thank you very much, Dr. Nawal, for such a wonderful presentation. I think it's the right time people to know more about renewable energy and the researches and the projects that are taking place around the UAE. And I think we have achieved a lot, and what's coming is it's a lot. But I think also we need to have a good vision as far as our youth engineers who are coming up in this line, also to be properly directed And I think if we can have an association between the universities and all these government sectors for more research and more actual on-field project being worked on by different engineers, especially the coming up generation. This was good opportunity for us to have a look of all sort of the renewable energy projects that are taking place in UAE. And I think, of course, this 1 hour session is not enough to highlight all the questions and to answer all the questions of our audiences. But I can say from the questions that have been raised on the platform that there are a distinct number of audiences among us, including Professor Isa Qambar from Bahrain Society of Engineers. And of course, we would like to have this type of webinar more and more, because this will help to bring the thought closer together and to help one another to find always the solution for all the challenges, questions in the engineering field. And we, as a Society of Engineers, try to do our best to bring these ideas closer and to be like a bridge connecting the private government as well as all the universities to at least to make sure that we are going in the right track, knowing that we have a plan for the coming 50 years and a lot of challenges there for us to fulfill. I really thank Dr. Nawal for this opportunity and for a very wonderful presentation and the highlight that you have given us on the renewable energy project. And also like to thank Dr. Isa Bastaki for his participation and for his time to be with us and sharing some of the good projects that taken place in University of Dubai. Also Dr. Ghanem for his handling of the webinar and routing the questions. And I know that a lot of our audiences have good number of questions, but I think the time is not enough to answer all the questions. And if there is any particular question our audience have, they can always send to us through our website, and we will forward it to Dr. Nawal or Dr. Isa Bastaki or whoever to get the answer for you. At the end, I like to thank everyone for being with us today, and I hope to see you all soon, and we'll promise to have more of this type of webinars where highlight more about the new comings in the engineering. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you all. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Bye. Thank you all.